Welcome, everyone. This is the Buttercup podcast where we talk about early childhood topics. My name is Marisa Macy, and I'm the host of the Buttercup podcast. I'm so excited today because I have my dear friend, Dr. Ehi, joining me. I want to tell you a little bit about him. His name is Dr. Ehi Edokhamhen, and he is an assistant professor in the Department of Teaching and Learning at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. With a background in early childhood education and psychology, Dr. Edokhamhen's expertise spans teaching, research, and service. With a research focus on teacher education and workforce development, Dr. Edokhamhen has conducted research with Head Start teachers. Dr. Ehi is an active member of professional associations such as National Association for the Education of Young Children, National Association of the Early Childhood Teacher Educators, Association for Constructivist Teaching, ACT, and Literacy Association of Tennessee. Dr. Edokhamhen is originally from Nigeria, and he is married and has a 9-month-old son. Thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Ehi.
Thank you, Marisa, for having me. Yeah.
So, how did you get started in education?
Okay. It kind of happened. Will I say a little bit of an accident? A little bit, because I say a little bit because that wasn't the main plan from the beginning. I have a background in psychology, so I started as a psychologist. My undergraduate was in psychology, but I've always had a family of teachers. My mom is a retired teacher. My uncle, which I lived with some time ago, was a retired principal. So even while my mom had a school back then, she owns a private school. I do teach in the private school while I completed my high school. So I've always been in the family of educators, but I did psychology. So when I was studying psychology in my undergraduate, I was so interested in child development, which is developmental psychology. So that was my area that I was really interested in. So when I wanted to study for a master's program, then that was in 2015 when I came to the US. I wanted to study master's in psychology. So when I went, it was clinical psychology. And the recruitment process and the rate of acceptance was a little bit low, right? So I talked with the program coordinator back and forth. So I was bouncing back and forth. Then I started thinking, why not just go into education, like something relating to child education, right? That should be a second alternative. So I was bouncing back and forth. So thank God the psychology did not work out. So I ended up going for early childhood education. So that's how I got myself here. So I did early childhood education in my master's program. Then after my master's program, I said, yeah, why not continue? I still have time, right? I'm still fresh. Then that was before my son came and all that. So I had a lot of time. So I went for the Ph.D. in early childhood education. So since then, I've been in the education sector.
That is awesome. And so, one of the things you did is your dissertation study was with Head Start teachers. And do you want to talk a
Yes.
little bit about your research with teachers?
Okay. Yes. The research was done, well, around when COVID was just relapsing. The research is about health start teachers looking at their resiliency during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that was about the research. And while I decided to conduct the research, I was doing some work on resiliency on teachers before the COVID hit. So when the COVID hit and it was lockdown, we came back. So I started wondering. Then I was bouncing it with my mentor, Dr. Trivet, Carol Trivet. She's my mentor. I worked with her for 8 years, so very close to her. I was bouncing it back and forth with her, like, why don't I do something about resilience relating to what is happening presently? About how teachers are coping during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then I've done some mini projects with Head Start teachers, right, in the past, like mini class projects. So I decided to fine tune it to make it like to really understand how Head Start teachers, not just dealing with COVID-19, right? Also looking at the factors that helps teachers to build their resilience. And while I was working on that, I saw a lot of literature review, a lot of research that talks about building of resilience, just the way you can strengthen resilience or you can build resilience. And they talked about internal factors, external factors that can build individuals' resilience. So I looked at the various internal factors, and the one that was mostly mentioned the most was self-efficacy. Then the external factors, the one that was mentioned the most from literature review was social support. So I decided to look at if social support, self-efficacy, how do they contribute to building a person's resiliency. So that was what I did. Then I fine-tuned it to not just building and also look at the experience in terms of these factors and how it has impacted teachers, Head Start teachers in particular during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I did a mixed method study, right, where I did a survey and I also did the interview. Then I kind of brought them back together. Are you interested in knowing like the results, what I got from the study?
Well, that is so interesting and so awesome that social supports and self-efficacy can lead to resiliency in teachers, and the pandemic and so many other things make the job of teaching difficult. And that's awesome that you are doing that research. And one of the things you talked about was your mentor, Dr. Carol Trivet, and she is an amazing researcher herself, and she worked a lot with Dr. Carl Dunst, and they had the Trace Center. And the Trace Center had a focus on assessment. And I know some of the things you and I have been working on with our team is authentic assessment. Do you want to
Yes.
share a little bit about what you and I have been doing with our team and assessment and
Yes, I can talk on that. Yes. I would say this has been so great working with you, Marisa, and the others in the team, Kelsey and the others. So yes, we've been working on authentic assessments for some time now. I think we have some papers already accepted and some already also we're working on presently. So we're looking at assessments in terms of looking at preschool children from Head Start as a transition to kindergarten, right? In terms of looking at the assessments, looking at when teachers rate children's skills. I mean, domains now means the various skills, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, communication skills, in terms of how prepared they are to transition to kindergarten. So we look at the assessment in terms of how teachers rate the assessment and how parents rate the assessments. Is there a discrepancy between teachers' rating of such assessment and parents' rating of such assessment? And we use the very popular AEPS Reddit set assessment tool that has been used in various research. Uh, and the one we're doing right now, I think we had there was a data for 2 years, 2 years data from year one, year two in terms of teachers and parents assessment. And we try to see there's similarities and differences in terms of how teachers rate and how parents rate the assessments. So this calls for culturally linguistic assessment, a process that should be encouraged, and especially children who do not speak English. Right. So this study we did with families that speak Spanish. So it was interesting to find out that the way teachers will rate assessments, right? And the way families will rate assessment, especially families who speak other languages other than English at home, might be a little bit different. But in terms of the various skills, there were some similarities, and in terms of differences, we had some similarities in some domains of development. That's about the work that we're working on.
Beautifully explained. uh, that was an excellent explanation. And you grew up in a multilingual household, speaking more than one language. So did
Yeah,
I. And I think this research that we've been doing is it it's so meaningful, and it
yeah,
hits home, and being able to have a way that families can be empowered when their children transition from preschool into kindergarten
yeah,
is so important. And a lot of
yeah,
times those transitions happen from preschool to kindergarten uh, in mass or groups, that there's groups, and it's not always individualized by each child and their family. And so it's been really fun doing this project in the Head Start classrooms with you. So thank you,
yeah.
thank you, Dr.
Thank
Ahe.
you. Yeah, thank you,
So
Dr. Macy.
and so we talked a little bit about mentorships, and you're the fifth person now that I've been wanting to learn more about mentorships from. Did you
Okay.
have a mentor growing up or in school that meant
Yes.
was meaningful to
Yes.
you, Dr. Agee?
Okay. I'm going to talk about three mentors in my life that has shaped me over the years, right? Right from when I was in my earlier grade, like first, second grade. Okay, the first mentor I would say that actually till today I still think about him. I think he's late now, right? Okay, when I was in my second grade, right? That was when I met him. Um, he was a retired principal. So he retired and started his home tutoring class at home. So, but before then, when I was in my uh, first part of the second grade, I was not doing so well in school. In Nigeria, the school system, the way you know a child is not doing so well, because at the end of the semester, they give out, we call it report card, where they grade every student in the class. They'll say first position, second position, up till like the last person, 15th position. So if your child takes the 15th position, that means your child is the least smartest in the class.
So it's
It,
norm referenced. So it's
exactly.
rank ordered. So if there's 30 kids in the class, there's a number one, a number two, a number three.
Two,
Ah,
exactly. So
okay.
if you have 20 children in the class, they will all have to have a rank order at the end of the semester. So if you get the first position, that means you are the best in the class. If you get the second position, you are the second best in the class. And they look at the activities, what you did in school in terms of math, English, they sum it all together. So they give you total points. So if your kid scored like 20 out of 20 students in class, means your kid is the lowest in class in terms of school performance. That's how it was then, back in the early 80s when I was in school, right? So the first grade, second grade, I was not doing so well. I was maybe around in the middle or even more than the middle. I remember the first time I had 28th position out of about 40 students in class. I had 28. So that tells you I was doing very not so well. So my dad was worried. My dad took me to this retired principal for extra lessons. So when I
Oh.
closed from school, after my school, I would go home, eat, then go to this man's house. And it was not just me, we had other kids in the man's house. So the man collects money, is being paid, but he was just doing it as because he's retired, he needed something to keep himself busy. So the man started giving me one-on-one tutoring. Do you know the next semester, my position jumped from 28th to second position. And from then, after the second position, from there, second, third, fourth, fifth, till my sixth grade, I never jumped down from first position from then. You can see how someone can just take a child, right? He said it was Eric Erickson that said, I cannot remember the word for word quotes. A child needs someone that is crazy about him, right? If a child can find someone that is crazy about him, you'll see a lot of changes. So that man was just crazy about me in terms of my success. That one-on-one mentoring actually changed my life. So from then, I became a very brilliant kid. Just right from that second grade, I became a very smart kid. Before I was like an average kid, but now I'm not a smart kid. So that was a major mentor in my life. Even because he usually give mentors to fourth to sixth grade. After sixth grade, he doesn't. So
What
when I
was
jumped,
what was his name, Dr. Ehi?
yeah, his name was Mr. Edokhamhen. I think it's Mr. Edokhamhen, if I can remember. It's been a long time. The man is late now. Edokhamhen. Yeah, Edokhamhen. So he was a principal of Oza Primary School. So he was a retired principal of Oza Primary School, which was a different school from the one I was going to. So, so that was one. So even after I finished my primary schools, I entered middle school. I was still going to him to say hi, not for tutoring, because I was still very close to him. So I could see he saw something in me, and he actually did. So that was my first experience with someone mentoring me. Then the second one, I would say, my second experience was in my undergraduate program. My department chair, Dr. Andrew Afolabi. Dr. Andrew Afolabi, when I got in the program at first, he didn't know who I was. We were not close. But then I think he started hearing about me because, like when a kid is smart in class, people start talking, right? So he was hearing a lot about me. So one time I think in my second year in the university, second or third year, he sent for me out of the blue. I was like, because the department is really a huge department. And we have a cohort of 70 students, right? Just going from first year, second year, up to final year. 70 students cohorts. So he sent for me. I was worried. How did he even know about me? Because he has a lot of students. He has never had a one-on-one with me. So when I went to his office, he said, so you are the Ehi Choya I've been hearing about. That was his first comment. So I started wondering, what is he hearing about me? Say, well, I hear. So that was what he said. So what he now said, he said, this is what I want to do. He said, in your thesis, your undergraduate thesis, I want to be your supervisor. I want to be your supervisor. You are going to do your thesis and I'm going to supervise you. And he's the department chair. What Dr. Afolabi did, he handpicked four of the best students in the cohorts, right? And decided to mentor them in terms of research. And before now, I have been attending his research classes, right? So when I'm attending his research classes, I didn't know anything much about research. I was following his research, right? The way he was teaching. He's a very brilliant professor. Up till now, Dr. Afolabi is brilliant. Then, during my thesis, I did my thesis and he mentored me one-on-one. So he actually taught me the research that I know today. He laid the foundation of my research. A lot of things that he taught me to today, when I'm still doing research, I still remember. He's so brilliant, so brilliant. I remember I talked to him one time when I was in my PhD studies. I talked to him one time and I said, it would be nice for me to maybe present with you in one of the conferences here in the US, maybe invite you over, or he's still in Nigeria. Invite you over so we could do a presentation. He was like, yeah, he has been attending presentations in the US with other persons. That, yeah, we could work on it. We could do something like that. And I think that is something I would do someday. Maybe invite him for us to present together. Maybe you'll meet him someday, Dr.
Yes,
Marisa.
maybe he'll come to
Yeah,
Orlando for
yeah,
NAECTE next fall or
exactly.
DEC in Oregon.
Yeah, it
Yes.
could be arranged. So he's a professor of psychology, right? He is brilliant. So he taught me what I know about research. He laid the foundation. Then when I started my graduate program, then I started learning more about research. So that was my second mentor. Then the last mentor I will mention, I hope I'm not talking too much.
This
So
is
the last,
awesome. Thank
okay.
you for sharing this. I
So the
never
last
knew
one,
this about you, Dr. Ehi.
so the last one is Dr. Carol Trivet. Dr. Carol Trivet is my mentor that has impacted me so much because I was her graduate assistant for 8 years. No, for 7 years. Uh, in my master's, the last 1 year of my master's program, and 6 years of my PhD. So I was her graduate assistant. And how I met Dr. Trivet, I took one of her classes, a social emotional development class, in my second year of my master's, right? I took her class, and during the class, we're having a discussion in the class because it was a discussion class. Most times, the way she teaches, she just come, she bring topic, we discuss, we share ideas. It was interactive class. Then after the class, I think she called me and said, I have been observing you in class, right? I think she was impressed the way I talk in class. She said, do you want to be my graduate assistant? And then I was actually looking for a graduate assistant position. At least that would pay for my tuition. I was strongly seeking for that. So someone walked up to me and said, would you be my graduate assistant? I was so happy. So she made me her graduate assistant. So since then, I worked with her. And for like 2 years plus, we worked on a DEC project, Division of Early Childhood. So we worked on a project. It was a meta-analysis project. I worked with other doctoral program, other doctoral students. And in my dissertation, she was my dissertation chair. So she guided me throughout my dissertation and I worked with her. So she's been awesome. So those are the three mentors I will mention in my life. You see, at the various points of my life, these are the ones that have really, really impacted me.
Yes,
Yes.
that is so cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I knew about Dr. Trivet, but I didn't know before grad school. And it's so neat to hear how professors and researchers work with undergraduate students. I think sometimes we think, oh, well, you have to be a graduate student to do research. And it's so exciting to hear you talk about your mentor from undergrad days too. Very cool. Well, what research or innovations in our field excite you today?
It excites me. There is one that my Dr. Trivet was trying to encourage me to go into. Then I had a lot to do in my dissertation that, like, yeah, I just put it off, right? It's something I've always been thinking I should do that. It's trauma-informed care,
Yeah.
right? About trauma that children go through in their early age and how it impacts their learning and development. It's something that I know that it's a research area that I know I will dig into later. I don't know so much about it now, though I've read one or two pieces about trauma-informed research. So that is something that really excites me that I want to really dive into. There another one that is really of interest is looking at teaching strategies for 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 pre-service teachers, right? I have a group of other professors I'm working with. We meet every week. I think we're like four in number, be five of us. One from New Mexico, one from Pennsylvania, two from Tennessee, and me. So we meet and we're actually writing a paper right? Doing a research on teaching strategies for preschool teachers in terms of looking at Gen Zs and the earlier generation. What are the various teaching strategies? And looking at how what students, pre-service teachers sees as teaching strategies and what professors sees as effective teaching strategies. Trying to see what's the balance between them. So that is something I'm working on. And we did, in terms of that, we also look at not just teaching strategies, the use of AI, artificial intelligence, that has been a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence and how it impacts students' learning. And we presented it. We did a presentation last year with my team about AI, Gen Zs, effective teaching strategies. Is something I'm looking at working deeper into. Yeah. So those are the two areas that I think, yeah, topics that I'm really interested I would dive into that I've not really had time to really go deep.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I know in your position, you do research, but you also teach and you do program coordination, practicum, fieldwork coordination, and
Yeah.
you're doing so many things. If you had to pick the
Mm.
highlight of your career so far, uh, what's like one thing that has been a highlight for you?
Oh, highlights. Well, I would say currently the highlight for me right now is being a program coordinator, like you mentioned, right? It's a new experience for me. I've never been a program coordinator before, right? I remember when I was interviewing for the position, I was like, yeah, I am interviewing, but I've never been a program coordinator, though I've done some mini work about coordinating students and all that, but being a program coordinator, something I've never done. And I remember one of the professors that was interviewing me was like, yeah, what we are looking at is not really what you've done. We are looking at your strengths, right? So we are looking at your strengths and possible what you're going to bring to us in future. So it has been a highlight of my career because it's a lot, right? I started the program coordinator position last semester. So one semester gone. So I'm still learning the whims and caprices of the position, but it's been challenging and it's been good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, how can people follow you?
Yes, follow me. Simple Googling my name, right? Yeah, that's the best. That's the best way, right? To get a hold of to know about a professor. You Google the professor's name. You see,
Well, are there
there's
any other Ehi Edokhamhens in the world, or is that
yeah.
such a unique name?
Okay. So I have Googled my name to
Yeah.
see how it
Okay.
appears out there. And when you Google my name, most likely you're going to find only me. Most likely. Right? You might find a Hichoya and another surname, or a first name and a Edokhamhen. But finding a Hichoya and a Edokhamhen, most times you're going to see me, right? And in this part of the world, in the United States, you don't find such a name. They are not so popular, right? Though when you go to sub-Saharan Africa, the name you might see it a lot there, but here it's not so much. Though Google can work across countries, though you can pick up information from across country. But simple Google, you see a lot of my name. And sometimes you might just see Ehi Edokhamhen in terms of social media handle and other. So that's another way to follow me too. Uh, if you want to, well, that is my private life though. I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram with the same name. But in terms of my research, Google, and I have an ORCID account. I the account handle is so long that I don't have it in my head. So ORCID account just it's like LinkedIn where you post it's like a summary of you, what you do, your qualification and your work, your research and service. I have that account. Yeah.
Excellent. The Orchid account. And
Mm.
Dr. Ehi, you told me one time the story of your name, and it is such a cool story about the naming convention used in Nigeria. Do you want to share it?
Okay, yeah. Uh, okay, let me say this, right? The naming convention, when I say used in Nigeria, it's not every part of Nigeria. I am from Edo State, right? Nigeria has 120 languages in Nigeria. So Nigeria is a very multicultural and multi-ethnic country. So 120 languages. I am from the South. So in Nigeria, in the South, most times you see like this. When you hear somebody's last name, sometimes you can tell where the person is from, exactly where the person is from in Nigeria. If you hear my last name, Edokhamhen, you know that I'm from Edo State. I am from the tribe of the Edos, right? So most times you see them naming people after where they are from. So you see that you can hear a name like Edo Soma, Edo Polo, right? Edo Moyi. If you hear those names, just know they are from Edo tribe or they are from Edo states. So my name, Edokhamhen, you anybody from Nigeria will just tell, yes, he's from the southern part of Nigeria. He's from Edo states. So these are the Edo tribes. That is how my name is.
That is so cool. And the research that you and I did with children who speak more than one language, you shared some of that with me about the many languages, 120 languages.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
amazing. Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Ahi. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
all the research that you're doing and all the exciting things in our field to move conversations forward uh, to support children and their families.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Dr. Macy.
and
Thank you.